This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1872, Comic Talk and Black Adam movie review.
This is Comic Geek Speak. I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Everly.
I couldn't remember how to go first. I don't think it's been eons since I've gone first.
Hey, you did a damn fine job of it, Shane.
Is it Comic Geek Speak? Is it just me? I don't know what to do.
Where am I? What day is it?
I'm here. Hi, I'm here.
Let's point out to our audience watching on camera, how sexy does Shane look tonight, man? Wow.
And Bert, I'm loving the way your hair looks tonight, too.
Fresh trimmed after 5 months.
Nice.
For hair care tips on Patreon.
Indeed. And to join us for today's hair talk, we are joined by the one, the only Paul Spataro of Back to the Bins. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, our
I'm
pleasure.
looking forward to this.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
After all those times of you having us on your show, it was about damn time that we reciprocated.
Well, it's you know there's always an open seat for you on Back to the Bins anytime you guys are available. The biggest problem is always just coordinating the free time.
Oh, of course, please.
Yeah.
Trust us, we are well aware.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started here for the main episode itself, a reminder that you, fine listeners over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak, are making this show possible tonight. So we thank you so much for that continued support of the show. We promise that your special episodes are a-coming, as we're in final coordination phases of getting some Patreon exclusive content in there, which will eventually be on the main feed. But that will be materializing soon. And once we have further information on that, we will give it to you. But we thank you so much for everybody who donates to the show. And as for little as $1 a month, you can get in on the fun over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And if you cannot donate on Patreon, feel free to, donate the old-fashioned way at the Comic Geek Speak site, or just spread the word about the show on iTunes by sending an iTunes review or Spotify or however the heck you listen to the show, or just letting a friend know, because we're all friends here, and we thank you so much for your support any way you can give it here at Comic Geek Speak. All right, let's get this party started here. How about we go comic news first, and then we'll go into some...
Lead on, Maestro. Lead on.
Okay. So it's been an interesting couple of days for comic news. For one thing, DC has a new captain for its cinematic world. And it was not at all the person that we were expecting it to be.
No, not at all.
Yep. As it's somebody who I still consider to be with Marvel. In fact, the day the news came out, the trailer came out for the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special earlier in the day. And I'm like, oh, hey, good for James Gunn. Yeah, things are going great. And then the news came out that James Gunn is now the man in charge of DC Studios. I was flabbergasted with the news. I did not see that one coming. I thought it was just going to be some, lame-o executive, and it turns out to be somebody who very much has his, foot in the door already at DC, and, has made The Suicide Squad, and has made Peacemaker, and is already in the process of making some other stuff for DC. And he's doing it along with Peter Safran, who also has directorial experience and executive producer experience. And they'll be the co-CEOs of DC Studios moving forward.
Now, is he still directing the next Guardians film or no?
Yeah.
I think that's his last.
Yeah,
I think it's in the can.
It is, Paul. Yeah, you're right. It is in the can. And they premiered a trailer for it at D23 about a month and a half ago. So we haven't gotten the trailer yet, but D23 got the trailer, and that Adam Warlock's going to be in it, and a bunch of other appearances and all that, and it'll basically be James Gunn's swan song with Marvel because he's straight up DC now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to do with the whole when they had dumped him and then they let him come back. I think there's still some hard feelings there, and I think he was content to just jump ship and go to DC where they were kind of wine dining him to get him to do Suicide Squad in the first place.
Yeah,
certainly possible.
Well, if that's true, I don't blame him. That was come on.
I mean, the ship was righted, but of course, when you're slighted, you're slighted. And what happened in that in-between time is that he signed on with DC before getting the job back with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to do the Suicide Squad in between that. Or else we would have gotten Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 already. They delayed it basically to please James Gunn and his schedule to make sure he was still able to do it. But yeah, it's nice to see actual direct like oversight that seems to at least somewhat make sense with DC. It's just where do we go from here? That's the question. Nothing's really announced.
It kind of feels like they've been rudderless.
For
it's like they have all these ideas of what they want to do, but they never seem to have any focus. And it just seems like they want to keep bypassing developing the characters cinematically and jumping right to the, hey, we could do the Justice League and we could have all these characters introduced already. And I think they might have the right idea. And we'll talk obviously more with Black Adam, but I think they might have the right idea of kind of cherry picking what's been done already that they think is good, and everything that they don't think is good, just kind of leave it behind and move forward from there.
Part of me wonders how this is going to affect the, along those lines, Paul, the separated universes, like the essentially the multiverse that we've gotten of DC films, that we've gotten multiple Batmen, that we've gotten, whenever they want to make something, they will. Like we have a Joker off in a Joker universe. We've got we've got the Batman, which just came out, which is a separate universe, along with the Penguin show that's coming to HBO Max. We've still got Batfleck running around in one form or another, and he's going to be showing up in the next Aquaman movie. What does that say for that? The Flash is supposed to be introducing a whole bunch of stuff if and when it ever comes out. But this will definitely at least set a path as to what direction they are actually going to wind up going, I think.
I was kind of under the impression that the Flash movie was going to establish the multiverse, and this way it would allow them to kind of cherry pick what they wanted and go forward with that.
Right.
That's what I thought too.
But now with the public relations issues they have with the Flash movie, they seem like they're reticent to let that one come out.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I mean, we'll wait and see. And I mean, this is all still beginning stages here. Like we know who's there. We just don't know what's going to happen next. And once we start seeing some announcements on future movies, then we'll know for sure. There is one announcement that I'm going to save until after we discuss Black Adam that may potentially be coming down the road now that came out post that movie. But I don't want to say it now for anybody who hasn't actually seen the movie yet until we get into spoiler action.
Well, and all I wanted to say about the way they did things is I was okay with them trying to do a team-up movie with Batman, Superman, and trying to do a Justice League movie to go a different route than just individual movies for everybody. It just didn't work as well as what it should have. So now they've got to go a different direction because what Marvel did worked, but I didn't want to necessarily see them copy that. But what they tried didn't work either. So now they got to definitely have to restart everything and see what direction they go in.
I was talking about that today with somebody, and we were talking about, again, I don't want to jump into Black Adam, but we're talking about characters that are in Black Adam and saying, that it would have been nice if they had almost made kind of like 1 hour specials, like with Werewolf by Night Marvel, to kind of introduce us to those characters and give us a little background and maybe, don't they have their platform over on HBO Max to show all their stuff?
They do.
Theoretically, yeah.
I mean, that's what Peacemaker was. I mean, Peacemaker was, that was an episodic, continuation of an existing movie. And at the same time, that's what the Penguin show is supposed to be for the Batman movie, is that it's supposed to be, its own, I think a prequel technically, but its own thing in that universe.
But it almost seems like Discovery's not interested so much in original content on HBO Max.
Yes.
Is what we get out of all the rumblings we hear, which is kind of disturbing. Because it's kind of a perfect platform to do some of this stuff.
They're very much in cost-saving mode right now, Shane. And I think that part of that is let's go with our Discovery IP. Let's go for as many, reality shows as we can go out there. And let's go with shows that are specifically on HBO as the HBO Max content, not necessarily HBO Max exclusive content.
Yeah.
Like the one bit of HBO Max exclusive content that's even coming out anytime soon outside of the Penguin show is the Ralphie movie that's coming out. Christmas Story Christmas. Yeah, exactly. An adult Ralphie from Christmas Story.
Is it the same actor?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
And his two friends.
You've seen him in he was in
Iron Man.
Iron Man and Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Yep. Yeah. So now he's coming back with that, and that's kind of the only real exclusive content that we're seeing. But also, we're still in the beginning stages of HBO Max and Discovery together as one. So this may also just be coalescing that further. Is there more to come?
Yeah, I hope so, because so far I'm unimpressed.
I agree.
Well, I think HBO might have more of a financial issue as far as their product goes, because if you get HBO through your cable carrier, you automatically get HBO Max.
Yeah.
Whereas Disney Plus is a separate entity that you have to subscribe to, so they're getting money from everybody who's watching that they wouldn't be getting otherwise. Whereas HBO, may not have seen the cost or the money influx from their streaming service that Disney did.
Mind you, Disney's also getting that extra money on top of it with Hulu and ESPN, because that's all under the umbrella. The Disney bundle, as they like to call it, Disney, Hulu, and ESPN all combined as one thing. You pay a set price and you get it all under one banner like that. HBO Max was set up like that in some ways at first, with the Turner Classic Movies and Adult Swim and other exclusives that they had gathered. But it's going to be some reorganization time in one way or the other. But this also means Walter Hamada is gone, so that's another thing that's happened. That's the guy who had the whole ordeal and was under investigation for things that he supposedly did to the cast of Justice League, specifically the guy who played Cyborg, who I'm now blanking on name-wise. But he had a whole dispute with Warner Brothers over Walter Hamada, Ray Fisher, and supposed abuse that came on him that was set to the side. And now Walter Hamada is no longer with the company because he basically got a golden parachute as part of the HBO Discovery deal. So
don't they always?
Exactly. He's out. James Gunn is in. Let's see if it's what's next.
That's curious to see what James Gunn does. The only thing I don't want is, and I don't think it will be this way, I don't want everything to emulate Suicide Squad and Peacemaker.
I agree.
That's my fear based on Guardians, Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker. I would like something a little bit less crazy at times.
Well, Shane, I would hope you'd have it based on what we know of him. He has enough finesse to appreciate different characters and just the nuances between them and so forth. I would be surprised if they went in that direction with everything.
Besides which, I don't think he's going to be personally writing and or directing everything.
No, just kind of.
He's just going to be kind of the editor-in-chief, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. This is, I mean, as can be said, when it was the quote-unquote Snyderverse, Zack Snyder didn't direct everything. Wonder Woman was not him. Aquaman was not him, even though it was all technically under his umbrella. I think the same can be said for here. James Gunn is still going to occasionally direct and write, but otherwise, as Mert said, it's going to be oversight rather than anything else. So
it'll be interesting.
I think that Gunn is a bad boy at heart. At least that's the impression I get. So that's a plus. He's not just somebody who's coming in there and saying, what's going to make us the most money. He's going to try and. Obviously the bottom line is going to be a factor, but he's going to have, he's going to have the eye towards what thing would I love to see that's going to make us the most money.
Yeah.
Which I think is, is definitely a positive. And then, for all the talk I hear about Marvel being homogenous in a lot of ways, I see a lot of different types of things that come out of Marvel between, like when you consider like the political intrigue of Winter Soldier and then comedy and other ones, and now we just got Werewolf by Night, which is another totally different animal. Sure. And that's what I enjoy, is that they could have this one universe that has all these different types of or genres in it. And I would hope that they try and do that with DC too, because under the Snyder umbrella, it seemed like everything had to be dark and very, very serious. And even when they threw a joke in, it was a kind of the wry, the corner of your mouth lifts and you don't actually laugh.
They needed a Feige. They needed a Feige, and this is now their Feige. And whether for good or for bad, now they have someone to point them in a direction and set a slate and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to roll with it, rather than have 8 or 9 people in a room and be like, okay, we want to do this, but split over to here and go there, go there, go there. Yeah. Have this actor, but not this actor. Have this guy from the waist up, and that's it. So yeah. Meanwhile, Marvel announced yesterday, and I'm not sure how many of you have heard yet, that Wonder Man has been cast.
I did hear that.
Cool. I have not heard.
And it is Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who previously played Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen series.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So they went ahead and cast him in the role of Wonder Man. And this is a Disney Plus series that's going to be coming, I believe, sometime, if not this upcoming year, then the year after. But this is the only bit of casting news that we have so far. Obviously, the X-Men haven't been introduced yet, so I don't know if he'll have his buddy Hank McCoy along with the run. I can only hope. I can
hope. Jeez.
That's one of the great duo buddies in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Stars and Garters.
Yep. But yeah, so we have an actor cast as Wonder Man, and it was also announced as while I was helping a friend move on Sunday. He had 1010 Wins, the local news station in New York, on, and they repeat their news over and over again. So I heard the same bad joke about it like 7 times. But Vision Quest, a new Disney Plus series coming, featuring the one and only Vision, following up on White Vision at the end of WandaVision, and we'll go from there.
For just a moment, Ian, I'm going to portray my age. I thought you were talking about a remake of the wrestling film with Matthew Modine in the 1980s. But anyway, I'm glad that was not the case.
Yes, I am glad as well. Obviously named after the miniseries Vision Quest from Days Gone By. But
it's great, because we were talking in the past about what are they going to do with the Vision, since they left you with that great essentially cliffhanger with him. So wonderful.
Yeah, I've been surprised he hasn't shown up yet at all, but that's nice. Hopefully that comes through sooner rather than later.
I would hope as well that Wanda would be in it in one way or the other.
Yeah, me too.
And did you say that this man is going to be introduced as Wonder Man in this Vision Quest miniseries?
No, this is a straight up separate series. This is the Disney Plus series. I know. I that's a good question to ask, Murd, considering Wonder Man's relationship to
that's true. Yep.
What have you? I mean, maybe they will somehow be tied together one way or the other once it's all said and done. Who knows?
Oh, and no, I forgot, Ian, that this actor, was looking at the text here, he played Black Manta in the Aquaman film.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, yes.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah. And he's
now you've said something I can picture.
Yeah, I think he's back for Aquaman 2. If
it says it here that he is. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So
because in that movie, that was one of the best transfers of a villain's look in any comic film I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it looked, Black Manta looked amazing in that film.
Yeah.
So
plus, we've already seen him play range because him as Black Manta was significantly different than him as Dr. Manhattan. So I think we can. I think he'll bring a very charismatic and jovial character to the screen with a little bit of edge. And hopefully that's exactly what we need from a Wonder Man here.
Absolutely, because Simon Williams, you've got the really fun, movie star life, but then underneath that is the torment and the trauma of his past and what happened to him, and like Murd mentioned, the whole Vision connection. And I'm so glad they're doing a television show with this character.
Oh yeah,
I wonder how far they'd go into the story. If you go into the him getting the powers and effectively dying and being resurrected, because I always felt like that added a lot of dimension to the character that was otherwise often played very lightly, but that he had this fear of death because he had kind of been through it already. Mm-hmm. And that I always thought that, that gave him a much more three-dimensional feel.
And do we get his brother?
The Grim Reaper.
I hope so.
Yep.
I hope so.
Yeah, that would be the crouton on top of the salad for me. Like that's absolutely getting Grim Reaper introduced into here in one way or the other. And who do you get to play him also will factor into it, because Grim Reaper has to be a very loopy, crazy yet almost sadistic character at times, depending on how he is portrayed. By the way, this is being directed, or at least showrun, by the director of Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, Destin Daniel Cretton. Okay. And the head writer is one of the writers of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community, and Andrew Guest. So, yes, there will be humor.
As there should be with Wonder Man.
Exactly. That much is kind of a given.
And yet, like the Russo brothers come from comedy, and yet they've managed to balance. Yep. They've managed to balance the comedy and the seriousness in their movies. So I'm hoping for more of the same.
Yeah,
yeah. And as we pointed out in our Beetlejuice retro movie review, is that it's the comedians that can do the best drama at times, and it's not necessarily the other way around nearly as well. So we'll definitely have to pay attention to this, and when it's going to wind up showing its head, we shall see. But there were a whole bunch of stuff unannounced on that timeline when it was released.
Yeah, there was.
This is definitely going to be one of those things. So good stuff. Did everybody happen to see the trailer to Ant-Man?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I did not, but go ahead.
Made excellent use of my favorite song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Chris, they go small.
Yes, they do. It's very Elton John, and it's very very microverse.
Oh, so they play Tiny Dancer. Okay.
No, they play Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Oh,
yes.
That's my favorite Elton John song. All right.
Yep. It's a very good effect. The trailer doesn't give a lot away, honestly.
No, not at all.
It sets up the overall premise of it, which we kind of gathered at least a little bit, where we return to the microverse. Clearly, not everything is as it seems in the microverse.
And there's something that what's-her-name's kind of hiding that she's known about.
Do they call it the microverse or the quantum verse?
Quantum
verse.
Yeah,
Quantum realm.
Yeah.
Which I always, in my mind, have coordinated with the negative zone. So I was kind of hoping to see maybe like Annihilus in the background or Blastar or somebody like that. But I think if we are going to get them, they're going to save it for the movie. They should not give that up early.
Definitely. Yeah.
I was keeping my eye on the crowd scenes for members of the Micronauts, or the Microns, as Marvel is required to call them now.
Yeah, they could only
Rand or Marionette.
Well, they can't do
Bug.
They can do. I'm trying to remember who they can't do. They can't do.
They can't do Baron Car. They can't do Baron
Exactly.
Karza.
Yeah. They can't do him. Obviously, they can't do Rom. Shock of shocks.
Yeah.
With all the money they have, what would it cost them to get Rom? $1? I mean, come on.
Right.
I would anybody's using Rom.
Yeah, what's going on with Rom?
Rom was a damn good book.
Oh yeah,
It was.
Good book.
It was.
absolutely. I mean, for its time, it was one of the best books of its time, period.
Yeah, it was an excellent comic.
And so was Micronauts in the beginning.
Oh, Micronauts is awesome. Yeah. Oh,
that first 10
dozen
issues or 9
Paul.
issues.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh,
so good.
That was so cinematic and well done.
Michael Golden artwork.
I loved that.
I don't think I ever read those first 12.
Well, Shane, I'd like us to review those at some point in the show, the first dozen, because Shane, you'd love it. You would especially love it.
I had a couple of the toys, but I did not have the comics.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend it. Very, very Star Warsy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really fun.
We do get our first glimpse of Kang in costume.
Yes.
As full Kang as well.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. I think
did he have the face mask on?
At one point.
I think on the way down when he's floating down he did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'll watch it later.
There was also a neat little cameo of an actor I did not expect to be in any Marvel movie.
I'm thinking, yes. I mean, it's speculation, but I'm thinking the gardener.
Bill Murray shows up in the trailer, Chris.
He's saying he thinks Bill Murray might be
the gardener.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Elder of
Terrific.
The,
Yeah, okay. That'd be pretty cool.
Brother of Jeff Goldblum. I mean, it seems like a perfect role.
Yeah.
Why not? And they also just announced that William Jackson Harper from The Good Place is going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, supposedly as a resistance fighter in the quantum realm.
Okay.
But they're keeping his role very, very close to the vest. So it may be more than they're leading on, or it may just be exactly what they're saying.
Or that could be your window to the Micronauts right there.
That's true.
You want to go in that direction, or microns, as they would say.
Right.
I liked him in The Good Place.
Oh,
great
so
show. Great show.
Yeah.
I think the show he was on Peacock recently I
haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, that was really good. But obviously, the internet being the internet, there's immediately been speculation. Oh, maybe he's playing the MCU's Reed Richards, but there's absolutely no cause for that whatsoever. And it'd be a cool place for him to show up with the Fantastic Four, venturing small as many times as they have, or Negative Zone for that matter.
Yeah.
But I highly doubt it's going to be the case.
I agree with Paul. That should be safe for the Fantastic Four film if they're going to go into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, for instance, they could introduce Dr. Doom in Wakanda Forever, but they shouldn't.
Now, I wouldn't be as opposed to if they introduced Dr. Doom somewhere else, but the Fantastic Four themselves and Negative Zone and really deep FF stuff should be the movie.
See, one thing I would say, and I mentioned this before, I think Wakanda Forever will be the ideal spot for a Doom cameo.
Yeah.
Especially if they're going into Namor, and if they're kind of riffing on the story I think they might be riffing on, which we'll talk about at some point. I think Doom would be an ideal post-credit scene. Because my God,
it's something written by Christopher Priest.
Yes. issues 26 to 30 of his run, one of the best Black Panther stories of all time.
Maybe.
So if they do Doom, if they do Doom, I hope that they just do him as a cameo, and I hope they cast him correctly this time, because he was probably my biggest disappointment of the the two Fantastic Four movies that
absolutely
I acknowledge existence of was just his casting.
Paul was dreadful. He was dreadful.
It's fine, Paul. The other one was literally called Fant4sticks, so you can't actually call it Fantastic Four.
You know what? In those movies, I thought the four main actors were actually fine for who they cast for those roles.
Yeah, I did too.
It's just that Doom was awful.
Yeah,
awful. And so out of character and looked bad, especially in the first one.
Yeah.
And plus that movie the budget was it just didn't work on some of it.
And I like that actor in other things, but not as
he was like some smarmy, what?
He was just like a yuppie. He wasn't an Eastern European ruler.
Yeah. Yep.
He can be Americanized, but he shouldn't be totally American. And this guy was he didn't have the slightest bit of foreigner in him.
No, and there needs to be, and I'm sure they'll establish this because they just seem to know what they're doing now. When that character appears, there needs to be every other character in the scene has to automatically go, there has to be awe, there has to be majesty because it's Doom. And if they don't and I'm sure Marvel, of course, understands that. So
certainly. And for that matter, establishing him as a force is more important than anything else. So yes, Chris, you are right. If he were to show up on the throne of Latveria now, in Wakanda Forever, that may be pretty awesome. Like,
well, what would be great about that is, or in maybe a cameo in some other film, I think Wakanda Forever would be ideal, but you can also establish the geopolitical world of the MCU. Like, think back to Winter Soldier, when they showed you all the people that were going to kill with all those Hydra missiles, and like you saw like all the different names and places, gave you a little glimpse of what's out there. Doom is an ideal vehicle for something like that. So, just thinking about
the way he was shown in those two movies. He was kind of like petty. He didn't have the grand schemes. It was, awful. How am I going to steal Sue from Reed?
Right.
It's like, just stop.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see Namor macking on Sue Storm in one way or the other in MCU, because that's going to happen.
I'm looking forward to seeing Namor on the big screen. I've been waiting on this.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I thought we were going to get him in Iron Man 3 when they showed in the coming attractions the scenes where they were going into the water after his building had been attacked.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to get a cameo where like Tony was going to be in his armor underneath like a ton of rubble, and that somebody was going to come and rescue him, and it was just going to be a mystery as to who it was. That was what I pictured, but not even close.
See, Paul, you and Shane should get together as a writing duo, because you both have great ideas that never seem to actually come to fruition in these films. But
that's right.
Well, we look at the Wakanda Forever trailers. I mean, they got the look down, at least for sure, with this character.
Sure.
So,
and it seems very geopolitical for what they're going for.
Yeah. Again,
some of the trailers I've seen.
They've gone to the wayside on it being Atlantis, but it still feels like Namor, at least from the trailer. So where it goes from there, we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Before Chadwick Boseman passed, my anticipation was that Black Panther 2 was going to be him coming back from the blip, and Man-Ape would have taken over Wakanda, and it was going to end up being a battle between the two of them through the whole movie.
See, it's funny you mentioned that, Paul, because there was a interview that came out somewhat recently with Ryan Coogler that says something similar to that the original treatment for it when Chadwick was still alive was going to take place after the blip, and he's dealing with being gone for 5 years and the changes that have occurred. So you're not too far off on that.
And that's a classic Avengers, Roy Thomas, John Buscema story from the Silver Age, where he had to fight Man-Ape. Incredible artwork.
Perhaps Shane, myself, Ryan Coogler, and Roy Thomas can sit down and do a movie.
That's right.
You hear that? You hear that, Marvel? We know you listen. We know you listen.
Yeah.
Around that wall.
Yep.
Yeah. They're like, what? What?
One more bit of casting news that we haven't discussed since our last comic talk, and I'd love to get everyone's take on this. Harrison Ford taking the role of General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
I think it's great.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
I think Harrison Ford has hit the age where he can't be the action hero anymore, even though we have another Indiana Jones movie coming out. But I think it's time for him to take on roles like that, where he could be the elder statesman and kind of come in and just command the screen for a little bit and then walk off triumphantly.
And he can do Krusty very well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think it's a great choice.
He doesn't even know what to act.
We've seen him be harumph many a time. And best of all, even if they do decide to do Red Hulk, CGI. That's it.
Yeah.
He just has to go into a booth and talk. That's it.
I don't know how much these guys do. Like a lot of the CGI actors, they put on the motion capture suit and actually act the physical aspect of the part.
Yeah.
So I would imagine if he does Red Hulk, they're not going to do that with Harrison Ford, but to some extent they might. They definitely capture the face and then CGI it.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for him to say, "Get off my helicarrier." And he will be appearing in Captain America: New World Order first before he shows up in Thunderbolts. So that's where we will get to see the new Thunderbolt Ross. And I'm sure absolutely nobody is going to make a comment on, you look different than the last time I saw you. So we'll have to anticipate the snark that may occur with that one way or the other. And that's about it on news. Actual comic book news is few and far between because these days we just read them and they happen. So we'll get into our reads in a little bit. But how about we start off with some Black Adam, shall we?
You bet.
Surely.
Okie dokie. Spoilers from this point forward, ladies and gentlemen. So anybody who has not seen Black Adam, pause this podcast, go to the movies, come back from the movies, continue the podcast.
Yeah.
That is the order. That is how it should occur. Paul, I'm loopy tonight, gents. So it's gonna be crazy.
Oh, there was something almost reassuring and clinical about the way you said that.
It's true. It's true. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There we go. Paul, I'll start off with you as the guest. General thoughts on Black Adam.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
If you're not watching at home, he just gritted. He gritted his teeth.
I did not. I can't say I loved it, and I can't say I hated it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a decent watch. I thought it did not have the focus that I really would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. I am a long time unabashed JSA lover. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more background on the JSA. Like I was saying, I almost would have liked to have seen a 1 hour short on each one of them, giving you their origin and kind of giving you the history of the team a little bit. I loved Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. I thought he stole the movie, to be honest with you. And I thought, I got to say, for the 20 seconds he was on the screen, I thought it was brilliant casting to have Henry Winkler play the original Alfred.
Yeah.
And I did think that, The Rock was a good cast, good casting as Black Adam, but I felt like the character didn't have the right emotional arc. He didn't have enough of a story where he changed and went from being like the frightening bad guy to somebody who you understand his motivations and can kind of root for. He felt a little one note to me. And the story felt kind of convoluted the way it was put together. So, in a nutshell, I enjoyed it, but I think I could have gotten so much more out of it if it had been done a little differently.
Shane.
I agree with almost everything you said, Paul. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. There were parts that were okay. I could have gotten more out of it. Here's one of my biggest pet peeves about it, and it happens twice in the movie. Once in the beginning and once at the very end. To me, Amanda Waller does not command the JSA and what happens at the end. There's just, in my mind, there is no way that the JSA would say, yep, okay, Amanda, let's go do your bidding. No, her and the Suicide Squad do everything against what the JSA and the JLA would do normally. They may get there in the end and they may work together at points, but there's no way in my mind that she would say, well, I'm going to call in a favor, or, hey, I'm going to call my team and that's the JSA to do this. That just wouldn't happen. Like, Amanda Waller is not the linchpin of the entire DC universe. And that's what I feel like they're making that character out to be in these movies. It's not horrible. I mean, I will watch it. I'll watch Black Adam again, and I will go see any DC movie that's put out there. But I just thought that was very bad way to write that part of the story.
And what if you had a scene in there similar to what they did in Doomsday Initiative or whatever it was called in the JLA Unlimited series, where she spoke to Batman about going after Doomsday, and they clearly didn't agree with each other, but Batman ended up doing it anyway because even though they are at odds with each other, they still have the same goal.
Yep. And that would have fixed a lot of it for me, because to me it was more like she's commanding the JSA, and there was nothing in the movie to tell me otherwise, which I don't think would have happened at all.
Amanda Waller is not Nick Fury. And I think that at least as of now, they have very much been trying to use her as such in the bulk of the films. So,
and don't get me wrong, I love Amanda Waller's character, and I love her as in charge of Suicide Squad and doing the nefarious things to get those jobs and tasks done. I just don't buy how they wrote her into this at all. And it's minor. It's only 2 little scenes.
Oh yeah.
But it totally changed my perception of what they're trying to build in the DC world right now, especially with this. I thought The Rock was a good cast, but I know it was a passion project for him. But I also think it was odd that he was asleep for how many hundreds of years and came out and understood everything and talked perfect English. I thought that was a little bit odd. There had to be some kind of time frame to that.
Shane, I figured they were actually speaking Arabic, but they just made it English for the audience.
Maybe
that's how I approached it.
I think that
throw in the JSA, and they're definitely not speaking Arabic.
Right.
Maybe we just have to tell ourselves wisdom of Zahuti did it, and
thank you.
And it's fine. Maybe I sound nitpicky, but
did Amanda Waller say at the end that she was calling in a favor?
Yes, she did, and
so
that bothered me.
What does he owe her?
Right.
Yeah. We will certainly get there, to say the least.
But and again, Paul, you'd be absolutely right if she would have, like, if there would have been a scene where she's talking to the JSA or the JLA and saying, "Hey, this is happening. I think I'm going to need your help," or I don't know what, but something when she said that, and then the character shows up, I'm like, no, I don't think he's at your beck and call at all. And that's what I felt like she was doing, was the JSA and this character is at her beck and call for things. I mean, I know she said favor, but
if she was holding kryptonite at the point, okay, maybe I gave it away already, but this is all spoilers at this point. But if she'd been holding kryptonite, that would have been one thing, but she wasn't. So
yeah, I don't know. So that stuff rubbed me the wrong way. I thought the casting of the characters was great. I loved the effects that they did for Cyclone, and I thought Hawkman was good, and Pierce Brosnan was great. I loved at the end where they fixed the helmet so that you got the eyes a little bit, which is what I wanted out of it the whole time. So they did a lot right, but there's also some wrong.
And Murd.
More big dumb fun from producer Dwayne Johnson, PGA. Yep. Yeah, I too am with Paul on a lot of points here. I can't say that I wholly disliked the movie. It was it was fun to watch the action parts. The visual effects were good. The fight scenes were strong. The JSA. Ian mentioned on Facebook after seeing the movie, hey, that was a great JSA movie with a little bit of Black Adam in it, and I'm not complaining too much about that, Ian, because I thought the stuff that they did with the JSA, they did pretty darn well. I agree with Paul that Pierce Brosnan was a great Kent Nelson in this. I think that the other JSAers were handled well too. I think they downplayed Cyclone's personality from the comics, like her wide-eyed, hyperactive chipperness, and I would have appreciated a few more L. Frank Baum quotes in her dialogue. Hawkman also good, but the script really needed the dimension of his reincarnations, the fact that he was around in ancient Egypt to see what happened with Black Adam the first time through.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
thought we were going to get that. I thought we were going to get that there at the one point.
Yep. I kept craning my neck towards the screen, just waiting for Hawkman to say something along those lines, but it never quite came to be. The JSA parts were fine. The main character, however, his characterization was all over the place. Paul mentioned that he didn't have a cohesive arc in this movie. It was more like he had a character squiggle instead of an arc. And they just didn't know quite how to play him. Sometimes he was more humorous, like fish out of water humor. Sometimes he was over the top violent, and then eventually they make him sympathetic by revealing that he was never actually meant to be in the role of the wielder of the Shazam powers in the first place. He was just this cynical, apathetic lout who was keeping his head down and doing his slave work while his idealistic son received the power of Shazam.
It's literally a Corks moment. I wasn't even supposed to be here.
Yeah, I do kind of like that twist because it redeems the Wizard Shazam a little bit. Because in Black Adam's original origin, Black Adam or Teth Adam was just this superficially good and decent person whom Shazam chose to wield the power, and then like right after he gets it, he immediately goes and to the Pharaoh's palace and snaps his neck and usurps his power and just gets corrupted by the power absolutely almost right away, which really kind of undermines Shazam's authority as like a distributor of this power of his. Now, this explanation, he did choose the right boy for the job, but then the kid makes the mistake of sharing his power with his dad and then dying immediately afterwards, and things go off the deep end after that. So, yeah, so Black Adam's characterization was all over the place. And then, Shane mentioned the fact that he speaks English right away. That's just one example of the many ways in which the script doesn't ask much of its audience or of itself. It just kind of blithely sidesteps the whole issue of the language barrier and whatnot. I feel like Kandak, there was in the credits, there was somebody credited with coming up with a whole language for Kandak, and also coming up with I guess some world building, some details for this fictitious Middle Eastern culture. So I'm glad they went into put some effort into developing this, but I wish they put a little more effort into it. And the whole concept of intergang being present, and the whole magical mineral, the Eternium, which longtime comics readers know, or there's going to be fragments of the Rock of Eternity, where the Wizard Shazam hangs out most of the time. These are aspects of plot and setting that needed a little more fleshing out. So yeah, overall it's an enjoyable ride, but wanting on a couple of fronts. And I just didn't get any of that good old Marvel family fun that I was hoping to get out of it. Though I don't know why I was hoping to, because nobody at DC Studios cares about that. And I don't know why they bothered to say this was based on characters created by Bill Parker and C.C. Beck, considering, well, one, it bore almost no resemblance to anything that would actually appeared in the old Fawcett comics, and two, Bill Parker had almost nothing to do with the development of the Marvel family beyond writing like the first one or two Captain Marvel stories back in the 40s. They did thank Otto Binder, along with the very long list of other comics creators to which they gave special thanks in the credits. He really should have been up there with C.C. Beck and Bill Parker, because he actually created Black Adam.
Adam, I wanted to ask you, would you have, because this thought went through my mind, so the wizard gave the son the powers and the son gave it to his father.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's kind of like Billy. Well, in the comics, Billy sharing it with Freddie Freeman to make him Captain Marvel Jr.
Right. Would it have been better if it would have been the wizard picking Teth Adam to not only restore order in that region, but avenge his son, and still realize then, well, we made a mistake anyway? Because they would have been given him the power directly, not involved his son. His son still could have been ideological, trying to do good, and just got killed in that way.
Personally, Shane, I don't think that would have been better, because I don't think the Wizards would have wanted to give power like that to somebody who is in the dark headspace he would have been, that Teth Adam would have been in, having just lost his son, being in a vengeful frame of mind. I think the Wizards would have seen a red flag there and would not have wanted to bestow the power on him that way. I like the way they did it here, actually. Where they gave it to the idealistic young boy, and who then was blinded by his affection for his father and his desire to save his father's life, shares his Shazam power with him, and then immediately gets killed by enemies, and leaving his father, the unworthy one, as the only possessor of the power of Shazam.
And it does make sense. I'm not unhappy with it. I was just curious.
I think to do it the other way, I think to do it the way you said would have to kind of build on what Adam was saying before, and you would have to have him be somewhat noble and pursuing those noble goals, and then little by little become corrupted by the power, which would probably, to do it right, you probably have to give at least 40 minutes of your story to that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that they wanted to do that. I think in order to do that the way it would play right, this would have to be just kind of like one little side movie that they were making, instead of like a big release. If they had a lot of movies coming out the way Marvel does, I think they could have done it that way.
Yeah.
And I think that would have made sense. You almost do it the way Claremont and Byrne did the way the Phoenix turned into Dark Phoenix. You build it up little by little.
If they had had the time, then yes, that would have made a lot of sense. But as we well know, movies have to come in under a certain time now in order to be profitable and in order for people to not start fidgeting in their seats. So that's
especially a movie like Black Adam, because it doesn't have the built-in audience that a 3-hour movie can command.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, you're right.
Chris, your thoughts?
Okay, so because I sacrificed a weeknight, so I got to get some time in here. I appreciate it. Meaning when I went to see the movie, not right now.
That's what I
So I was looking forward to this only in the sense that I think Black Adam is a really interesting character. I mean, I haven't read a ton of them, but the stuff I have read in JSA, for example, I've really enjoyed. It's a complicated character. I always appreciate how if they try to apply a character like that in television or film. Having said that, so I read a bunch of reviews beforehand, and they were all so negative. I'm like, okay, this movie can't be possibly as bad as they're portraying in all these reviews. I'm figuring all the critics are not comic book people. Let's go see. Let's give it a shot. And as I kind of anticipated, the movie was not as bad as the reviews that I read.
Yeah.
But that's small consolation for me because I didn't think the movie was particularly good either. And I first of all, I think I like Dwayne Johnson immensely. I love his charisma, his sense of humor. So I don't in any way fault him for my minimal enjoyment of this film. I mean, and Murda and everybody I think already hit a lot of the right points. I think what I would just say is, and for me, this applies to not all, but many of the DC films. There's just no heart, ladies and gentlemen. There's just no heart. It's when I watch these movies, I'm like, all right. Oh, they got that one. Yep, they did that too. They connected all those dots. Yep. But I'm not even sure if you can put it into words. There's just something missing.
Yeah.
I was kind of bored. Pierce Brosnan was great, but Pierce Brosnan's a great actor. So if you like, of course he was good, and they gave him a great role. The JSA looked great. It was fun to see Adam Smasher doing his thing. Great to see Hawkman. I enjoyed all of that. But I can't put it to words. I know Shane has a similar struggle with a lot of these movies. They're just missing the mark.
It's just a bit off.
It's off. It's not. It's hard for me to find. I'm someone who talks for a living, so I'm struggling here. But because I think about this a lot over the years. I've seen all these movies. Hey, let me try it this way. I'll mention that one of the DC films that I think is superb, which is the first Wonder Woman film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always goes back to one scene as to why that movie is superb. When she gets out of that trench and she crosses no man's land and you feel the emotion of this is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I remember thinking, it's Wonder Woman. Like they got it. And it doesn't matter that it's Black Adam, who is not like a well-known character. It just felt like comic book film by the numbers. And there's just been too many of these from DC for me. And I'm dramatically losing interest in all of it. It's just because, I'm getting older. I value my time. That was like 2.5 hours. I could have been doing something else. When you have stories this good, come on, guys, figure it out. You got to do better. These movies, they're just not that good. That's my general takeaway from it. You can have all the effects and everything looks good, but there was no heart. There just was no heart. The kid on the skateboard, I'm like, oh, come on. Like that wasn't interesting.
You mean Bart Simpson?
Yeah, that wasn't interesting. Like they got the goofy brother doing jokes. You've seen in 100 other comic book films. It's all the same stuff, but it's not. No, and Black Adam is such a complicated character. I would have preferred this as like an HBO series where they actually built up and explained who Black Adam is, what the torment is, this history, why he acts the way he does. And that probably, if they had the correct writers, that might have been really enthralling. This, at least for me, was not enthralling. It wasn't as bad as like these ridiculous over the top, this is the worst movie ever made reviews that I read.
Yeah, no, it's not the worst.
It's just, Nah.
So
that's what I call.
I won't watch it again. Let's put it that way. I have no desire.
That's what I call the internet mentality, that everything they review has to be either the best ever or the worst ever. And you know what? Most stuff is somewhere in between.
Oh, yeah. And you guys also made a great point. Like, take Hawkman, for example. That's a show waiting to happen. My God, look at Hawkman's history. You could do a whole series on where he's been, why he is the way he is, and it'd be amazing if they
all this Aldous Hodge stole every single scene he was in.
I thought he was excellent in the role, but it was just surface. Like it's like, oh, it's Hawkman.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if you could do Hawkman like they did. Do you remember? Was anybody here a big fan of Blackadder, which I loved?
Oh, Blackadder, yeah.
Each season, which was 6 episodes, would have a generation of Blackadder. And the last episode of each season, all the characters would get killed. And the next season would be the next generation. So it started in Elizabethan times and it ended in World War One.
Okay.
Now you couldn't do it. I mean, you wouldn't do it with Hawkman in the comedy way that Blackadder did, although I guess you could. But you could almost have each one be a reincarnated version of him and do it season by season.
And the other thing I just thought about this, that I think another reason why this movie missed the mark for me is that, and they've been doing this, they do this too often. They're rushing everything. Like let's throw all these characters in there, and you don't there's not a lot of development, and it's just at this stage of the game, I'm just from speaking for myself, I'm just getting bored. I'm like, come on, like you're making the same mistakes over and over again with these movies. Like, do you not get it yet? Like if you're going to do Hawkman, you got HBO, do a whole series on Hawkman. And if you do it right, it'll be awesome. I don't know. My money and my time is too precious at this point. I'm nearly 50 years old, guys. I don't have time for this. I just don't. So, they got to do better.
The way that I look at this and the way that I stated, I begin with one thing in particular. Friends, I saw a movie that was named after a character where a bunch of other characters show up and through the machinations of the American government are forced to fight the lead character in questionable means and questionable politics, where in the end they come to an agreement and they're all on basically the same side. But enough about Captain America: Civil War. Let's talk about Black Adam. This movie is a bunch of story beats, and
well put.
When you hit those story beats, okay, sure, right, but we just needed more of every single bit of the story, and basically, in the end, and Mert, I'm sure you will agree with me when I make this statement, Black Adam, at its heart, is still a Captain Marvel character, and
or damn well should be.
Exactly. For you to premiere Black Adam in a solo vehicle where, sure, you get the Wizard of Shazam. I mean, that's, at least tying it in.
It's something.
But to not even mention Captain Marvel once, to not even mention, Shazam once, when he supposedly already exists in this world, because this is modern day from what we know, unless this is happening somehow before the lightning bolt hit Billy, then it's convoluted in that way. There were parts of it that I definitely enjoyed along with you guys. There were also parts of it that were just incredibly underdone and underwritten. It was like ordering a pizza and the pepperoni's raw. It's like the pizza on the bottom might be all right, but you still have raw pepperoni on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the problem. It didn't come together.
Go ahead,
the only
Shane.
other thing I will say is I also got very, very tired of every single fight scene being slowed down.
God.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, it was okay at the beginning, like see it a couple times, but man, it was like 150 times in there where every punch got slowed down.
That actually drained
like,
my soul away for that 2 hours.
I agree with that.
Drops during those scenes. The music selections didn't make a lot of sense either.
No.
Ennio Morricone at one point, I think. And was it Back in Black was another one? Just because
Paint It Black.
Paint It Black. Yes, it didn't work for the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and it didn't work here either. It did, however. The movie did feature one of the best uses of "Baby Come Back" by Player that I have ever.
It felt to me like they said. It felt to me like they looked at the catalog of things they could buy and said, "Okay, which ones are the cheapest to get?"
Right. Yeah.
And let's work those in.
Here's one with the word "black" in it that we can afford.
Let's use that. Yeah.
But I must go ahead, Ian. I'm sorry.
I was just going to touch real quick on what Mert said earlier about about my Facebook post. Like I went to see a Justice Society movie, and oh hey, great Black Adam cameo. Is I don't mind the Justice Society in this. I think the Justice Society is great, but when the Justice Society is for me essentially the redeeming factor of a movie called Black Adam, that is a major problem. And I almost felt like we got more time with the Justice Society than we got with the supposed lead character that you're supposed to be building a reason to care about.
Yeah.
No,
we got more character moments with the Justice Society.
Yes, you're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, when Dr. Fate, meets his fate in the movie, it's incredibly, touching. And you see it coming and all that, but it's a Justice Society moment. It's not a Black Adam moment. It's a Justice Society moment.
I also kind of think his death was a waste. It really didn't need to happen.
That too, yeah.
Well, he was
didn't want to come back
ennui of being Dr. Fate for so many years. Is the way I see it. It's a death that it happened because Dr. Fate on some level actually wanted it to happen.
Yeah, I get that. I just think it was wasted.
Do you sacrifice your life to save the life of somebody you already know is going to get reincarnated if he dies?
Well, we don't know for sure that that's happening with this version of Hawkman, though. We want it to be the case, but we don't know for sure.
We also don't know if there's going to be somebody else in the helmet, because even though the helmet disappears, like there have been many Dr. Fates. Over the years.
And on that part, I was perfectly fine with it, because again, you expect another guy to get the helmet and be Dr. Fate. I get that.
Yep.
I thought on a surface point, I thought Dr. Fate looked awesome. Like the costume was. I thought it was right on the money.
His costume was awesome. I just didn't like the way the helmet was designed without the
eyes.
Yeah.
But at the end, when the power came through and did that, I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense now. At least it did that once in the movie.
And I was. Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say Pierce Brosnan is rapidly coming up on 70.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say he, on the screen, if I had no idea who he was and they said, how old do you think this guy is? I would say he's at least 10 years younger than he is.
Oh, definitely.
Which is one of the things that's always been one of my pet peeves about the Justice Society, is because you want to make them come from World War II. They would be, what's after octogenarians? Non-degenarians?
Yeah, they'd be in their 90s.
They'd be in their 90s by now. So you can't really do that anymore unless you have them come through some sort of a time warp or something. But I like them being older. You don't want them in their 30s or even 20s and in their prime. Right. You want them to be the experienced, crusty guys in their 40s and 50s, but still, capable of mixing it up if they have to. So he really kind of fit the role and did not feel like a 70-year-old on the screen.
No, I thought he was really well done.
Although
I was go ahead.
Having his death mimic Doctor Strange in Infinity War so much, where he's coming up with all these ideas, he's coming up with all these different visions of what the future could be. He's bringing it all together, and then realizes the only way for it to happen is to sacrifice himself. Felt very reminiscent to Infinity War in that way. And it honestly didn't even come to me until we were talking here, that was the case, where you get your mystical, magical doctor in, and this one just happens to be Fate instead of Strange, and it's so similar. But I can't win them all on that one.
Now, speaking of similarities to Doctor Strange, I did kind of miss the circular amulet of Anubis in the costume design right under his helm, but they probably changed that because they expected people would cry foul because it looked so much like the amulet of the Eye of Agamotto on Doctor Strange.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
What were you going to say?
It was just, I enjoyed seeing Henry Cavill return.
Oh yeah.
And I hope, they use Superman effectively in whatever plans they have for him going forward.
Yeah, me too.
Two immediate thoughts. One,
Yeah.
well, more statements than thoughts. One, that entire cameo happened entirely because of Dwayne Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Johnson, his management is the same management as Henry Cavill's. So he was able to use that connection to get in touch with Henry. He went over the head of still at the time head of DC, studios, Walter Hamada, and went over his head and contacted Henry and was like, look, I want you in this. You want to be in this. I know you want to be Superman. Let's make this happen. Henry Cavill brought a Superman suit he wanted to wear.
Huh.
And made it happen. Initial test screenings, you just see him from the waist, and you don't actually see the head. And they thought that worked great, but they actually needed Henry, and they got him, and they shot it. It was the last thing they shot. They put it together, and they made it happen. 2, mid-credit scenes do not make a movie. And although I was thrilled with that return, I want to see Henry Cavill actually play Superman. You all know my thoughts on Man of Steel. I'm a fan.
I agree with them for the most part.
Yep.
I've been a defender of Man of Steel and caught abuse for it over the years.
Well, I defend most of the film as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I would never say that anybody is wrong for liking a film. Whatever their tastes are, by all means.
It's a movie. It's not that important.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. we got better things to do in life. But I want to see a hopeful Superman, and I think that Henry does as well. And we're going to probably see a very different take on Superman played by the same actor the next time that he comes around. And hopefully it'll turn out wonderful. We have time.
But I thought that was also a reflection of what we were talking about earlier with the DC film management, not really having a direction. It was announced, we've cut ties with Cavill. That's over. That Superman is, no longer part of our cinematic universe. And now he's back again. So it just shows you that, decisions are either made rashly or they've I don't even know sometimes what the decision-making process there, but I think it's a positive to bring him back because I think any complaints I have, which are pretty much Batman v Superman and Justice League related, as far as the character portrayal, have been with regard to the writing and the directing, not the acting and not the look.
Yeah. And for that matter, now this is the second movie that Superman has showed up involving a Shazam character because, without his head being shown, he was in that last scene of Shazam.
Yep.
So, further establishment. That's it.
And so what you're telling me is these decisions, I should look for my Blue Beetle Booster Gold team-up movie and a Jack Knight Starman movie coming anytime.
Yes.
Any day now.
You're getting Jaime Reyes pretty soon. That's in post.
Not enough.
And
it's good.
That's the kid from Cobra Kai.
Yes,
Jaime Reyes. Shane, if they were going to do Starman again,
that's a TV show.
It's got to be a TV show. Like what's frustrating is that when you look at how deep DC's history is, a lot of it's better served by high production value television series.
Yeah.
Because if you want to develop, go into the weight of these characters, in many cases, doing a film, especially if you're trying to cram all this stuff in, it's not going to work. And it hasn't been working, at least for me as a viewer. For most of these films, it just hasn't worked.
Yeah. Just give me an 80 episode run. No problem.
Sure. Let's do that. We'll get right on that, Shane. We'll get right on it.
Sure. Thank you.
And before we get to final thoughts and what have you, I do want to point out I was a huge fan of I've been a huge fan of Noah Centineo ever since he showed up in For All the Boys I Loved Before, which is a Netflix series of movies. And I think he did a damn good job as Atom Smasher.
Oh, I thought he was very charming. I really liked his performance.
He was great. And same can be said for the actress who played Cyclone. I think Quintessa Swindell did a pretty good job. She had, I think, the least character building out of everything, even though we did get her origin thrown in there to explain, how she became Cyclone. We could have gotten a bit more of her, but it's juggling, it's juggling plates. There's only so much you can do with the amount of time. So, yeah. And Bart Simpson, I think, Eamonn was all right, although I kept expecting a similar turn to what happened, with the boy making his father Black Adam. I fully expected power to be granted at some point during this movie.
Sure.
Well, it will
Isis
be.
and Osiris, they were right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. They could have did it, and they might do it perhaps in a sequel. But
I did think at the end of the movie that was going to happen with the two of them.
Yeah. They seem to be definitely setting it up as a potential for later on. But don't have a cow man. It's not what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I caramba.
There's only so much we can say about a movie that's so-so. I think in the end, it's Dwayne Johnson himself is a real life superhero, and he wanted to make a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm glad he did, knowing it was it really was a passion project for him for years.
Yeah. I mean, since the beginnings of the Snyderverse, like they had been talking about it, like since the beginnings of I think over 10 years, this was in the planning stages.
I read an interview with him. He said it goes back 15 years. He's been lobbying for this.
Yeah, he still had hair. Right. Well, how many fracking swears would we give it, gentlemen? Shane, what do you give it?
3.5.
I give it about a 2.5. That's the best I can give it, probably. Murd?
2.9.
Nice. Chris?
Ian, I'm with you. 2.5.
Okay. And Paul?
What's the highest number?
Out of 5.
5.
So I'm cutting it right to 2.5. I'm going to say right in the middle. Could it, like I started off, could have been better, could have been worse. It was okay. I didn't walk away feeling like I needed that time of my life back again, or that I wasted it. But it just so often my critiques of things like this are that it's a lost opportunity because it could have been better.
Geez, see, I didn't think being a 3 would be the high mark. Whew. I thought it'd be more in the middle there with everybody.
Three says to me better than average.
Oh yeah,
and if 2, that's why I went with 2.5 average.
And for the yeah, exactly, 2.5 being smack dab in the middle. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes on this was 40%. So honestly, us being where we are, that's.
And Ian, how is it performing financially?
Financially, it's done fine.
Yeah,
It's
financially,
one
pretty
movie
good
in the world.
Okay.
They said that it was the number one Dwayne Johnson movie where he is the only real star. So like they took out all the Fast and Furious movies. They can't compare any of those.
It's now at $250 million globally as of 2 days ago.
What was its budget?
Budget was that's a good question. I'll have to look that up in a second.
According to Wikipedia, it's 195 to 200 million, which says it's got to get up to 500 million. Does it have to be like 2.5 times now?
Thereabouts, yeah, and it'll probably get to about 400 or 450 probably once it's all said and done, because it's still doing well. It really hasn't dropped off that much in what's there, and also there's no competition until Wakanda Forever comes out. There's no competition.
Yeah.
So it's got at least 2 or 3 more weeks of building stuff up. And then Wakanda Forever comes out, and it's immediately number 5 at the box office. Like that's just how it's going to go.
Well, I think the anticipation of Black Panther film is just going to crush everything, basically. Yeah. So,
but I wonder with the Black Panther movie, the lack of Chadwick Boseman, is that going to cost it at the box office?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I doubt it.
No.
I think more people are going to see it, wondering what is going to happen next than in other words. I think.
That movie became a cultural phenomenon. So,
but I think it did largely on his charisma.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
So that's why I was just thinking that there might be people out there when he's not in it. Like they may not even realize he passed away, and then they say, I don't need to go see that.
One thing, Paul, that it has going for it right now are 2 of the strongest trailers I have seen for a movie outside of the movie Barbarian. Where I was anticipating it like more than anything. And the 2 trailers that have come out so far for Wakanda Forever paint a story. You get just enough for you to really sink your teeth in, and hopefully that'll be enough to get everybody to the
sequel. Those trailers are absolutely riveting. Like I actually find just the teaser, the teaser got me emotional. Like you really felt like you can feel they're going epic with this film. Like it's going to be a huge movie.
Yeah.
In terms of just what they're going to show us, because it has to, because it's Namor, so it has to be basically. So,
Namor in his own way, I feel the connection to Black Adam. The anti-hero from the Golden Age.
Absolutely.
Pointed ears.
Exactly.
and a ruler for that matter. So yeah, but there's only one thing that I anticipate more than that, and that is playing this.
Man, did he sell it? Woo!
Yes, indeed. Nobody sells it better than Murd, and it's time once again for Muddle the Murd here on Comic Geek Speak. And Murd will explain more, but before he does, a reminder: please send in your Muddle the Murds. We will have yet again a post on the Facebook group as a reminder for that, but we are getting low in the queue. So please, please, please send in those Muddle the Murds so that we can continue to attempt to muddle the Murd. And now Murd will tell you how you do that.
All right. If you'd like to be a part of our Muddle the Murd segment, you need to come up with some comics trivia questions, folks. Successful Muddle the Murd entry consists of 3 comics trivia questions, a Marvel question, a DC question, and a third question about some other publisher's wares. They also need to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics pre-1970, 1 about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, meaning that the years 1970 and 2000 are part of that bracket, and 1 third question about comics post-2000. Don't forget to include your answers to these questions. Please confine yourself to story content. Don't ask questions about letters, pages, advertisements, like the physical dimension of the comic itself. Just, plot, character, that kind of thing. And don't go too granular or microscopic in detail with it. We're not looking for questions about like how many fish appear in like panel 3 of page 5 of Aquaman, volume 2, number 6. Just fairly major and relevant information, please. If you go too much into the minutiae, our referee Ian might rule the question out of bounds.
Indeed.
So come up with those 3 questions and email them to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. Ian will find them there. Ian will ask your questions of me when the appointed time arrives, and if I get all 3 of them wrong, if I fail to get a single one of them correct, you will have Muddled the Murd, and you will then be entitled to a spectacular prize, which I will personally mail to you at my own expense.
Indeed. And what is said prize of the moment?
Well, we are still offering this fine Tomorrow's publication here. It's Comic Book Artist Bullpen. It's a tribute to the short-lived but well-regarded fanzine Comic Book Artist Bullpen. It is edited by John Cook, who was also the publisher of the fanzine the first time around, and it collects all 7 issues of that fanzine, which includes career-spanning interviews with such renowned artists as George Tuska, Fred Hembeck, Terry Beatty, plus an all-star super spectacular tribute to Jack Abel. And there's lots of interviews and lots of reproductions of original art inside, and it's all underneath this fine Jack Kirby baseball cover.
Excellent.
Everything comic artists produced was superb.
Mm-hmm. And what better time to offer it while smack dab in the middle of the World Series? So there we go.
Absolutely.
All righty. So this attempt comes from Jerry Harrington from Iowa City, Iowa.
All right.
Jerry has these preamble words to say. Geeks, please accept these questions to throw at Murd. You guys are great. I rave to my non-comic book friends about you, and of course, they care not, but I feel good about doing it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for putting in a good word to the Muggles, Jerry.
To the Muggles.
That's all I'm going to call them from this point forward. The
Muggles.
Yep. I especially love your comic history specials. I've been collecting since the early 1960s and have taught several courses on the history of comic books. Very good to hear. Anyway, here are the questions 3. And we begin with independent pre-1970.
All right.
In the early 1960s, Archie Comics published a series of Archie Andrews as a young boy, Little Archie. Unlike the light comedy tone of the other comics about the Riverdale crew, this series contains stories placing little Archie in more serious tales of adventure, mystery, and intrigue. One of the recurring villains in this series is a green-skinned nemesis who vows to rule the world, only to find his exploits foiled time and again by little Archie. What is this villain's name?
Wow. I'm very sorry that I don't know the answer to this. Not just because it takes me one step closer to a muddle, but also because it sounds like a really interesting character.
Sure does. Great question.
I finally dug out my big, thick 80 years of Archie digest to read over the summer, so I did read some little Archie stories, but this green-skinned individual was not in any of them. So I'm going to say Skulker and call it a day.
Any guesses from the peanut gallery? No. All right. Well, it is a familiar name, but it is not the familiar name that we think it is. It is Mad Dr. Doom.
I was going to say I cheated and looked on Wikipedia and found.
That does ring a bell, actually.
So Mad Dr. Doom it says not to be confused with Marvel Comics Dr. Doom. Mad Dr. Doom is a green-skinned mad scientist who has terrorized Archie and the gang since they were children, as they constantly foiled his plans of gaining great wealth and conquering the world. Doom was assisted by Chester, his nitwitted teenage slacker of an assistant, occasionally said to be his nephew. Chester looks and acts like a stereotypical 1950s juvenile delinquent. They both made at least one appearance in the mainstream comics.
Nice. Greasy hair and a switchblade?
Oh, okay.
I would imagine.
Yeah. All right, 1 down, 2 to go. Let's head over to Marvel 1970 to 2000. The Age of Apocalypse began when Charles Xavier is accidentally killed by his son Legion, altering existence as we know it. In one of the 8 revamped X series, Gambit and the X-Ternals, Gambit and his team are sent on an interstellar mission by the now reformed Magneto to steal the M'Kraan crystal to help reset reality. When Gambit later enters the crystal, he meets the guardian of the crystal, who knows of Xavier's death and that this reality isn't supposed to exist at all. What is this character's name?
Wow. And I'm positive that some 30 years ago I read this because I had all the Age of Apocalypse stuff. But no, I don't remember Gambit having a conversation with anyone inside the M'Kraan crystal. So, Well, you know what? I think it was during this miniseries that we finally learned what Deathbird of the Shi'ar's real name was. So I'm just going to say that as my guess. Kalsi.
Well, the correct answer is J-A-H-F, so Ja'af.
Joff, okay.
Joff Johns, no, Joff.
There's that Borscht Belt. I feel better already.
Welcome. And let's head down to the final question. This
Bird.
one, BC post-2000.
All right.
As we head over to Supergirl #1, cover date October 2005. Our tale begins with Kara explaining to another woman the story of her trip to Earth from Krypton, complete with a stopover of suspended animation. Who is this other character?
I'm pretty sure it turned out to be Power Girl.
You came so close.
Oh!
The answer is Stargirl.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. That wasn't going to be my second guess, actually. And that's, yeah. 2 of the 3 questions are about comics that I have read, and I'm pretty sure that I've read Supergirl #1 within the last 2 years, so I can sort of picture the Ian Churchill artwork.
Oh, man. Well, like I said, what better time to give away a baseball book smack dab in the middle of the World Series as Jerry, congratulations, you have muddled the murd.
Jerry, great questions.
Yep.
And Jerry, keeping the faith by teaching about comics, even better.
Yep. Our hats go off to you, Jerry.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
Yep, your comic book artist bullpen compendium will be heading your way very soon.
Excellent.
Yep. And that frees us up next time we do a Muddle the Murd to give away a special prize donated by Mr. Everly.
That's right.
There we go. Terrific. And you'll find that out next time.
So get those submissions in.
All right. Let's talk some comics. If for some reason we don't have enough time to talk She-Hulk, then we'll talk that in a separate episode. But
Sure.
I want to get some actual comic book conversation before we actually get to that. If you guys don't mind, I'll start things off. Because I haven't read a lot, but I've read enough to discuss. First off, DC Infinite changed their offering recently. They are now the premier source of quick digital, and that is a 1 month wait. That's it. They are 1 month behind retail now. If you pay I think it's $99 a year rather than I think the $69 a year that they were offering.
And I think the $99.99 is through some kind of mid-November. Then it goes up to I think $120.
Something like that. Yeah. All I know is that my subscription was supposed to initially renew in February, and I was able to basically use the rest of my subscription to get 2 months free, and now it'll renew in December.
Well, that's what mine said too, and then my confirmation email for that said in 7 days it'll be charged. And I'm like, wait a minute, and I sent an email off to them, and they're like, no, that's right. The 2 month thing was a glitch that they fixed. It was incorrect.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, okay. So I got, because mine was supposed to renew in December. Yeah. So I kind of got messed out of the 2 months. And in the next couple days, I'm supposed to re-up at the 99. But I'm going to just grin and bear it because I'd rather have the 1 month wait for some things.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I'm now, because of that, entirely caught up on Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. I read issue 5, which recently came out, and it continues to feel more and more like an actual Crisis story each issue, especially with the way that they've been building it. Like there's teams splitting off and facing off against individuals. There's darkness involved, the Great Darkness and all that. And obviously Pariah being the main person behind it. My continued concern, though, is that major story beats, and in this way it's more like Final Crisis than it is Crisis on Infinite Earths, major story beats are happening in one-shots, separate from the main story. There's a Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, The Green one-shot that was written by Ram V and a couple of others, where a major story beat from this issue happens. And if you didn't read it, all you get is the character showing back up and being like, hey, we found Pariah's chair. Like, okay, great. And then see this issue for more. Like, okay, fine. I'll see that issue for more. But part of me still wishes that story was being told in the main miniseries itself. But that's also modern storytelling and the way that they decide to do it. The art continues to be superb. There are some splash pages in this that are beyond excellent. And some of my favorite portrayals of certain characters that have happened in quite some time. And overall, it's a good story. It's just now we have 2 issues to go. So they have 2 issues to stick the landing. Whether or not they do, we'll have to find out. Shane, what'd you think of issue 5?
I am on issue 2.
Oh,
I'm behind.
Okay.
I'm behind as well on that, yeah.
But because of getting that DC Infinite upgrade, I started reading them on there because I can carry them all around with me.
Nice. Okay.
And it gave me this nice little layout of all the issues in order right on the app by just clicking the one button. So I'm just going to go right through those.
Yeah, that's incredibly useful. Their layout's gotten better and better as time goes on as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can also catch up even further on Nightwing, which I'm going to, Chris. So
Yep. Same here. Same here.
But I'm digging it. This was also kind of the return of the Justice League. We knew it was going to happen, so they're now back in the fray of the fight as things move forward, and we get to an Infinite Earths. Which one we get, we'll find out. So that green issue also had a lot more Justice Society. So we had Jade and Obsidian in there as well, along with their father, Alan Scott, as they literally go into Alan's ring in order to commune with the Green. And both versions of Swamp Thing come in there as well as part of it. So good stuff.
I reread issue 0, issue 1, and the Young Justice issue 1, which I loved. That was a lot of fun for how they wrote it to kind of be classic Young Justice, I'll say, at the moment.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I need to read that Young Justice miniseries. You know what? That's next. For the Young Justice fan in me, that has to be read sooner than later. The other things that I've gotten to, I started reading. I'm halfway through Saga Volume 10. Now that I have it, and it is everything that Saga should be, which is freaking awesome.
Didn't miss a beat from the hiatus. Not a beat.
None whatsoever. I'm glad I waited, though. I'm glad I waited to read Volume 9 until right before Volume 10 came out, because now everything is like super duper fresh in my mind. Time jump, no spoilers outside of the fact that there was yet another time jump. There's tons of time jumps in Saga. That's to be expected. And there's a lot of pirating going on in this Volume 10 here, and some rock and roll for that matter.
Yes, there is.
Yep. So that's it's great. Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples continue to be one of my favorite duos in comic book creation, and excellent visuals this time around. Like the pirate ship, the first time that we see this pirate ship, which is this kind of like floating skull in space.
Yep.
Superb. So looking forward to finishing that. I've got about 2 issues to go on that. When I was done with New York Comic Con, as you guys know, I headed into Boston for a wedding, and I got to experience Newbury Comics for the first time.
Oh.
Nice. Newbury Comics is basically Boston's Midtown Comics. It's easily their biggest, it's a chain of stores, even more so than Midtown is. But one of their premier ones is right in downtown Boston, and it has trade, singles, manga. You can buy records there. You can buy action figures, T-shirts. It's 2 full floors of an excellent store. And they were doing a buy one, get one 50% off sale when I was there. So I picked up Volume 1 of She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell. And I picked up the final volume of Paper Girls because I hadn't gotten Volume 6 yet. So I picked that up as my 50%. And then from there, we also picked up Hollow, which is by Shannon Waters, Brandon Boyer-White, and Bernice Nell. This is one of the more premier, like, young adult books. It's coming out of Boombox. And the story about it is, just to read off the back here, Isabel Crane and her family have just relocated to Sleepy Hollow, the town made famous by and obsessed with the legend of the Headless Horseman. But city slicker skeptic Izzy has no time for superstition as she navigates life at a new school. Ghost stories aren't real after all. Woo! Shocking. They are. And it's really it's great all ages comic book storytelling in this book here. Highly recommend it. Hollow, give it a shot if you're looking for it. The other thing that I picked up at New York Comic Con that I wanted to discuss that might be of interest of some of you folks, Pop Star Assassin in Suspicious Minds. This let me read the back of this here. The year is 1977. The king is dead as the world mourns. But when a mysterious briefcase turns up in his dressing room, Bruce, a coke-addled Elvis impersonator, finds himself wedged between a mob boss out to avenge the death of his only son and a government conspiracy with far-reaching, world-ending ramifications, all in an attempt to discover the true identity of his father's killer. I mean, can you get better than that?
No, it sounds good to me.
I can get behind that.
It's just the type of like insanity that I want from this. I can basically see the movie in my head. Terrific artwork. Holding it up here to the screen, you get great spreads like that are bathed in color. as they're as they're going through it here. It was the one book that I bought while I was at New York Comic Con on that Thursday, and it's by Behemoth, and it's well worth checking out. So give it a shot. Pop Star Assassins in Suspicious Minds, rated R, as it says here on the cover. Mm-hmm. And I got one more for you. Let's Make Dumplings. This one Martha picked up. It's a accessible, easy to follow comic book cookbook for bringing Asian dumplings into the home kitchen, with recipes for savory and sweet dumplings, dipping sauces, riffs, and more from the authors of Let's Make Ramen. I have to get Let's Make Ramen also. But this is it's very descriptive with the artwork, and it's a great way to figure out how the heck to make yourself some yummy. So
nice.
I'm all for it, and I love recommending food books, and this is right up my alley. So yeah, let's make dumplings here by Hugh Amano and Sarah Bacon. And I think that's my bulk of reading that I've done in recent memory. So good stuff. Shane, what do you got?
Well, I said the Dark Crisis books that I'm starting to read again. I did I did receive in my latest shipment the 20th anniversary of Hush hardback.
No.
Shane was disappointed.
The dust jacket's beautiful. The hardcover is gorgeous. The inside, I forget what they're called, pages that you kind of paste in are nice. Mm-hmm. The paper they used is horrific.
Oh no!
It's thin, shiny. I thought it'd be more archival-ish, more omnibus-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. So I'm trying to read it, and I read through the first issue, and I'm tilting it and moving because it's reflecting the light that's around me. I'm I can't see the damn book. So I was disappointed.
One of your biggest pet peeves right there, and yeah, fall right into it.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, I thought we had gotten past all of that paper crap, and it was going to be a little bit nicer. But yeah, the Q&A in the beginning, there's a few pages of that between Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, which is awesome to read. That was a lot of fun, even though it was with the crappy paper. But yeah, once you get into the story, I was totally disappointed. Totally pulled me right out of it. But it's still a nice compilation. I've just picky about the paper.
So close. They came so close.
So close. Yeah, so close.
Yeah, well.
I don't think I really read anything else. I read the first Batman issue of the new run. I started to thumb through Blue and Gold again because I got a trade paper of that, which that's awesome if you haven't read it. I
will be reading that on the app very shortly, actually. So
I'll be talking about that when it's my turn.
Nice.
Yep. Excellent. You pick up any new toys?
Yep. The G.I. Joe Cobra Stinger came in the mail the other day.
Wow, look at that.
So that was kind of cool. It was on a Pulse exclusive and it's sold out, I guess. So I'm
Does it come with the trooper or no?
Oh yeah, it comes with a trooper. He's in there.
Oh, they even got him in the gray uniform. Wow.
I had a few G.I. Joe vehicles, but I never had a Stinger. And it was $34, which in this market, in this day and age, that's pretty cheap for a toy like this with a figure. But yeah, it's pretty close to the original one. A little bit of variations on what they chose to do with the color scheme, but it was a lot of fun to put together. I felt like I was 10 years old putting a G.I. Joe toy together, which I was, but I felt vintage, and it came in the box with the vintage artwork and stuff like that. Other than that, I did get this. I really wanted one of these, but I could not bring myself to care enough to buy one until they came out with the version that's Jon Favreau as what's his name? They get Paz Vizsla from The Mandalorian. So because he does the voice of this character in the show, which I didn't know. But when they came out with that version of it, I'm like, all right, that I can get. But that's about it. There's all kinds of G.I. Joe stuff on pre-order because they're so far behind on shipping. But
of course,
yeah, we'll see.
Nice.
But that's about it.
Paul, what do you got for us?
Well, as you are probably well aware from my show, I really don't embrace modern comics too much.
That's fine.
And lately what I find is somebody will come on and they'll recommend a book that we'll do, and I read it and say, boy, I have to read this series. Boy, I have to read this series. And it ends up turning into Murd's time bubble, because I end up with a stack of things in my queue that despite my intense desire to read them all, just sit there. But for whatever reason, of late, I found myself pulling out my Marvel Masterworks of the original Silver Surfer series, and I've been making my way through that,
Nice.
as well as reading some early Submariner books.
Nice.
And by early, I mean of his solo series after Tales to Astonish, not Golden Age. I'm actually, I still actively buy what falls into my wheelhouse, most of which is pre-crisis. And I have now gotten to the point where I need one issue of that Submariner series to finish it off. Issue number 9, for some reason, has escaped me.
So close. You can taste it. You can taste it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when you get to the point where, okay, I was buying all these issues for somewhere between $5 and $15 each. And now this one is $30, but I needed to complete my series, so I'm going to do it. And you spend the money, and then a week later, you see it for $3.99 somewhere.
Oh. Oh.
Damn.
But that's what I've been doing. I've just been going in mostly in John Buscema ways of late. And I the thing that I marvel at all the time is that here's a guy who apparently had no love for drawing superheroes, and I love his superhero work so much.
He was notorious for saying that in interviews all the time. He loved doing Conan, but not any of the superhero characters, supposedly.
Yeah, but he had, and it's funny because I always fall back on that. I say I always enjoy watching an artist, if it's like a singer in concert or an actor or a comic book, whatever. When you know that the person who's performing for you has a love of what they're doing, that kind of comes through, and it makes you appreciate it even more. And to sit there and think that this guy didn't even really love what he was doing, and yet I can appreciate it so much. I can only imagine what he would have put on paper if he did love what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's something to say right there. I mean, like somebody who put out such absolute gorgeous stuff. I guess you don't have to love your job in order to do it, but it's fascinating to think about that.
When you're dealing with artistic people, you would think that passion is what would drive them to be so creative. Yeah. So if you don't have the passion for it, how do you do that? I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Big John Buscema, I mean, I'm right with Paul. He's one of my all-time favorite comic book artists, and his career was so extensive. I mean, he went from the 1950s at least into the year 2000 or so. So there's such an immense body of work. And Paul's right. I memean, I've read many interviews where either Buscema himself or contemporaries would say, he always would poo-poo the superhero books, but I have to wonder if he actually really meant it, or was he just kind of being a curmudgeon just to be a curmudgeon? Because he also he taught art classes. He did that How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way book. Obviously, he was a master craftsman who clearly took pride in what he was doing. And his Avengers stuff especially is just, it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah. It may be a case of, I love doing this, but I love doing Conan even more.
Yeah.
And in comparison, he downplayed the superhero stuff, because I mean his Conan stuff is unbelievable too. So it's not like you could say, he did the superhero stuff better. Not at all. I mean, he was amazing.
Absolutely. Yep. Chris, what do you got for us?
A wide variety, brother. So first and foremost, I don't have it in front of me, but I got the Blue and Gold trade. And it was the first thing I read when I opened my shipment, because I was so looking forward to it, because I read the first couple issues, lost track of it, and I waited for the trade. Shane, I got to tell you, I was laughing out loud.
Yep.
I mean, I've read a little bit of the Bwahaha. I have the whole Bwaha omnibus. I haven't read the whole thing. So I'm familiar with the basic beats of their dynamic, but I'm not nearly as well versed as you are. this is like the first really lengthy Booster Gold Blue Beetle story I've read. It was everything I anticipated and wanted and more.
Yeah.
You just so felt plus because Dan Jurgens is writing, you so felt the history of their partnership, the humor, the wisecracks. I mean, Booster is such a magnificent jackass. I mean, I got to tell you, it was a complete delight. And if when we do our awards for the year, I'll leave that to you to nominate for best miniseries of the year. But it deserves that nomination. It is. I was thoroughly entertained. I hope they do a sequel because
me too.
And one question, because it doesn't matter, but I'm just for continuity's sake. Did Blue Beetle not die in the new universe? They're just ignoring it.
No, I don't think he died in the new universe in the rebooted one. I think that with New 52 it got reset, and then they reset New 52. He continued to be reset. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering because I mean that whole was it Countdown?
Yes.
When he was killed.
Yep.
That was a very good story, actually.
Oh, it was. It was.
I'm sure you weren't happy when they blew his head off, but
oh God, no.
But it's great to see when you have the creator of Booster Gold writing the book, and obviously is very well versed with their dynamic, the two characters. It was what a breath of fresh air to read this story.
Yeah, I actually I was ordering a couple Nightwing trades for my son who wanted to read them. He was just picking somewhere, so he was picking like the 4 or 5 of the New 52 because it was a good starting point for him. And I was trying to make up free shipping on it, so I ordered one of these from In Stock Trades, not realizing I had already ordered one from DCBS as well. So then I gave one copy to a coworker at work who I had just introduced the Bwahaha League to her by giving her the New Beginning trade paperback. So I said, this is like two opposite ends of the spectrum as far as time goes, but they really do go together. So if you read this and you like it, you're going to get a kick out of this. So she said she'd let me know what she thought.
Yeah, well, Shane, I was thinking of you as I went through it, and I figured if this gets Shane's seal of approval, which I know it does.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. So otherwise, well, the new Human Target came out in my last shipment after the brief hiatus.
Yeah, I have to read that.
It's just there really isn't anything better. It's Fire is introduced as a character in this latest issue.
Oh, cool.
Shane, you're going to enjoy that. It's when that's done, and I even treated myself, even though I don't need it, I treated myself to the first 6-issue hardcover too, just because I wanted to read it again. That's like I took a page out of your book, Shane. And I'll probably
trying to hold off just to get the whole collection.
I'll probably get the second half, then I'll probably get the whole collection too. As gratuitous as that is, because that's how damn good this story is. So love that. I don't have it in front of me, but Tom King also did Gotham City Year One.
I have to read that too.
And I read issue 1. Fascinating. So, obviously it takes place in the past, and it focuses on Bruce Wayne's grandparents. And even better, the key character in the story thus far, I only read 1 issue, is Slam Bradley.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's brought in an investigation. And then they tie it into the modern day Batman as well. The first issue was superb and really wet my whistle for where this might go. But, fun to see Phil Hesterhart. I hadn't seen his work in a while.
Yeah.
So that was an excellent first issue. I recommend that. After we did our Halloween episode with, Beetlejuice Werewolf by Night, I got a hankering to go back and read some classic Bronze Age Marvel horror.
I figured you would, my friend.
From the library. I took out the best, which is Tomb of Dracula.
Nice.
The old essential, which is in, look at that colon black and white artwork. So I read issues 13 through I think 19, which is the classic Rachel Van Helsing and Dracula stuck in the snow, and they have to help each other to survive, which became a power record. And there's also Werewolf by Night crossover in these stories as well.
Nice.
Again, reading the Gene Cole and Tom Palmer artwork in black and white is some of the most one of the most satisfying experiences I can have as a comic book reader and lover of the medium. And also reading this is early 70s stuff. It's Marv Wolfman writing. But when you go back to a time period when they weren't writing for look at that, when they weren't writing for the trade. So the story just builds and builds and builds over issue after issue. And he's got, and I remember this as a kid, Marvel do this all the time. He's got these subplots running across like months and months of stories, and you're just rewarded with each issue as you keep going. The sophistication on this title, because I hadn't read Tomb of Dracula in a while, it never ceases to amaze me how good this book is, how ahead of its time it was. And I mean, like, there's no Buffy the Vampire Slayer without this comic. There just isn't. There just isn't. I guarantee Joss Whedon was heavily influenced by this book when he created that whole world. So if you're interested again in horror, in Dracula, or just reading a great Bronze Age comic, you must read this book. It just gets better and better. It's a little, in the beginning, it's a little clunky before Wolfman comes on. Once he comes on and he starts telling his story, just stay with it. It's that good. Myrtle will appreciate this. I got my tomorrow helping. So Myrtle, this issue of Back Issue. So it's number 139. Not ready for prime time Marvel heroes. Now, Myrtle.
Bronze Age also ran.
All that matters is, I haven't read much of it. I just skimmed it. But Myrtle, they have an essay on Wood God. They have an essay on Wood God.
Wood God?
Wood God.
Wood God, yes. He's a genetically created satyr, basically.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so this is
Introduced in Marvel Premiere?
I think so. But this has They got Modred the Mystic, Paladin, the Shroud, Jack of Hearts.
Yes.
Wondar. Stingray.
Jack of Hearts, very, very prominent in the current She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell.
Yep. So, Murd, if you don't pick this issue, I'll be happy to lend it to you at some point, because it should say, like in the indicia at the bottom, this is meant for Adam Murdo. So this is
Get it, Chris, but I've got my own copy already making its way to me.
Well done.
I have to comment just very quickly on the fact that I've always looked at Stingray's costume and thought to myself, God, that's the least original costume, because like it looks like 7 other comic characters' costumes, like all combined into one. Like it could be a hawk and dove, it could be it could be a falcon costume. Like even the bolt and burst on the chest is not very remembering, but still I like the character.
Well, I always thought it was a very striking costume, honestly, and the way it's shot. And you may be totally right that it's not really original, but I think the combo, the way they put it together, every time I see it drawn by a good artist, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, he gets his due in here.
Excellent.
Alter Ego, 177. What's exciting about this, they do a wonderful interview with the great artist Don Perlin, who is the co-creator of Moon Knight, and who was is what most well known. He did a lot of work from the 50s. He's still alive, actually. This interview was done in 2018. He's in his 90s now, but he's especially known for his run on Werewolf by Night, written by Doug Monk when they introduced Moon Knight. Great interview. He talks all about his career. He worked for a lot of different publishing houses, talks about, different people who worked with at Marvel, for example. So if you love Marvel history as I do, that's fascinating. Really interesting interview. So that I always love when Alter Ego really, dedicates some time to a creator like that. So that was really fun to read. Shane and I have been reading the Zdarsky Batman. I think it's been 3 issues now. I don't have them in front of me.
Yeah, I've got the first issue, and I have the next 2 to read.
It's excellent. It's kind of almost like a sequel to Tower of Babel. Really? Yeah. Well, in the sense that Batman is dealing with a I guess you call it a robot or something that he has been involved in. It's called Failsafe. So that says a lot right there. Yeah. And things get out of hand, and it explores, how he's created Bruce Wayne creates a different persona for himself that he kind of is separate from Bruce Wayne to like deal with it. It's fascinating. It's really well done. They bring in like Superman, Justice League, because they're all dealing with this unstoppable force that they're trying to deal with. It's excellent so far.
It makes me think of OMAC too, actually, from what you're describing.
Yeah, give it. You'll see what I mean when you read it. But I'm really enjoying that thus far. Haven't read this yet, but I'm really excited that I got First Degree, a crime anthology from Humanoids. And the opening story is by David Walker and Michael Lark. So it's a crime anthology. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I can't give it comments on the stories yet, but I was thrilled to get this in my shipment. Mert, I don't know if you ordered this, also from Tomorrow's, the Team Up Companion. So this chronicles Silver and Bronze Age team-ups. It's a guide. Look at this. It is like chock full of information. So it goes into Brave and the Bold, Marvel Team Up, Marvel 2-in-1, you name it. So, Mert, if you don't have this, I'll be happy to lend it to you. This is, look, if you think got Saturday morning Team Up, Isis and Captain Marvel. So this book, great illustrations. They've even got the animated Sonny and Cher. Holy mackerel! So this looks. I mean, I've skimmed it. It looks really fun as well. I think, yeah, a lot of other obviously ongoing series I've talked about many times that Spider-Man, Iron Man, all still great. Nightwing, of course, I'm just salivating with every new issue.
Closer and closer to that conclusion of that Iron Man run too.
Yes, they're near the end of that. I think that's about it. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but next time.
I forgot to mention that I did get the new Tim Drake Robin series, the first issue.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I tried to cancel the other issues and I can't because the art inside is so bad to me.
Yikes.
I do not like it at all. If you get a chance to look at it online somehow, it is jarringly strange.
Okay.
You heard it here, folks.
Whew.
I will have to check it out because I was looking forward to that, and now I'm disappointed.
You know what? I'll see if I can go grab it quick. It might be easy on a pile. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to find some images from the inside. I'm wondering if this cover is reminiscent of what the actual inside of it is. While we're waiting for that, oh, you know what? Actually, here we go. I found some. Okay. This is at least a page of it here. So for when Shane does return, yeah, it's certainly stylized. I'll give him that.
Yep.
Almost, I'd say almost reminiscent of like
Jeff Lemire.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire or a Ramos or maybe even a Bacallo, but early Bacallo. Is this the inside of a chain?
That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
I just know.
Yeah. I mean, personal taste,
Yeah. No. I mean, every character looks like they got punched in the jaw.
I can see that from the shape of the faces.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I might still give it a go just to see if the story's any good. But
I'm going to do that. I've got 4 issues coming, so I'm going to read them. But
cool. All right, Murd, over to you.
All right. Well, I yield 50% of my time here to a PSA, a plug basically for a project that our friend and friend of the show, Dr. Eamonn Clarke, has been working on. And he mailed me all the way from the UK an advanced copy of it. I'm holding it right here in my hand, and it is called DUI. That's Drawn Under the Influence, number 2, and it's kind of it's an anthology. It's kind of similar to the Indie Spinnerex Awesome Anthology that they used to put out, or even to the CGS Stories thing that our own listeners got together among themselves and published a couple of times. This is DUI number 2. It's put together by or coordinated by the Awesome Comics Podcast, which is apparently a UK-based comics podcast. And issue number 2, there it is, right there on screen. Our crackerjack producer there, Ian, coming through once again. It's edited by Eamonn Clarke.
Nice.
The content
fantastic.
It's like 60 pages. The average, it's a whole bunch of different stories. Average length is like 2 or 4 pages by a couple dozen of different indie creators of Great Britain. And it spans a whole bunch of different genres, horror and science fiction, and a lot of humor in there as well. And it's by creators that people in the United States probably wouldn't have heard of. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people in the UK haven't heard of them either. But it's still it's a lot of interesting stories in here, and it's put together in a paperback package, which I'm holding right now, for £9 cover price, but £3 of that from each sale will go to Cancer Research UK.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure Eamon is dedicating, mentally at least, his work on this to our friend Jamie D and other friends of his that he may have lost along the way to cancer. So it's a worthy cause, and it's some interesting material, having read through it here. So if you're interested, you can learn more about it at duicomic.bigcartel.com.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So there is that. Thank you for sending me that advanced copy so that I could give it its due here on the air. And the other thing I'm going to mention here, I, like Chris, Halloween being on the rise here this past week, I too got a Jones for some classic Marvel Bronze Age horror. But I went in a slightly different direction, and instead of breaking out Tomb of Dracula, I went for the Monster Frankenstein.
The Plugart. Oh.
Yes, the Plugart. Well, the cover image I'm holding up here isn't Plug, but the back cover, however, that's the cover to The Monster of Frankenstein #1, and that is absolutely Plug.
Yep.
I'm more partial to the Val Mayrick art myself. But,
and there's a lot of that in here too.
But I love the Plug art too. I can't criticize any of it.
That I would not think so. No. Yes, and he was the artist on most of the first year's worth of stories, which were written by Gary Friedrich and were set in 1898. And then at some point, because this thing collects all 18 issues of the Frankenstein Monsters solo series, plus a 2-part arc from Marvel Team Up, in which Frankenstein's monster meets Spider-Man and the Man-Wolf. But there's also some, as kind of a bridge between the first and second halves of the Frankenstein's Monster solo series. There's also a bunch of appearances in black and white horror mags of the era. Legion of Monsters and several issues of Monsters Unleashed. And it is in that range. That's where Doug Munch first came on board as writer of the Frankenstein Monster. A little more than half of the material in this trade were written by him. But I think he gets his first crack at the creature in this story in Monsters Unleashed, where we get some of this. Ooh. Frankenstein 1973, this beautiful black and white virgin pencils of John Buscema.
Nice.
Talking about the man and his non-superhero work. There are some beautiful Frankenstein's monster pencils from Big John in this volume. So yeah, it's in terms of overall quality, it really doesn't hold an angry peasant's torch to the Tomb of Dracula, but it's.
But those opening issues, they adapted the Shelley story.
They did. Those,
and it looks beautiful.
The first few Friedrich and Plug stories. It's Frankenstein's monster being thawed out of the ice in 1898 by the great-grandson of the ship's captain, who first hears the story of Frankenstein and his monster from Victor Frankenstein himself. And the monster then gets to tell it all to this guy who's thawed him out of the ice, and then everybody dies by the end of that arc except the monster, and he goes sauntering off to have other adventures in 1898 Europe, as his motivation is to find and kill the last surviving descendant of his creator, Victor Frankenstein. Okay. And after that, he gets frozen in ice again when, I guess, somebody at Marvel decided that stories set in the late 19th century weren't relatable enough, and he gets thawed out again in 1973. There's that art on screen.
Look at that art team, Buscema and Sid Shore's inking. Oh,
wow,
magnificent.
Wow. Yep. That is something else. I mean, the detail on that.
Yeah, well, Sid Shore's was a master inker going back to the Golden Age.
Stunning. Great stuff.
Yep, so it's Fun and Funky Fright Fest starring the Fiend of Frankenstein. Excelsior.
Indeed. Right on. Well, I'll also mention in passing, it's not comic related, but Barbarian just got added to HBO Max. And if you're still in the mood for something spooky and scary, this is a movie that I went into knowing nothing, and I'm glad that I did, because the story itself is, you have to know as little as possible in order to actually really truly enjoy it, because it is not the movie that it sets itself up to be in the trailer. I'll just leave it.
I know nothing about it. Okay.
It's superb. I saw it in theaters. I'm glad I did, because it was worth seeing in theaters, but now it's available on HBO Max for anybody who has access to it. Barbarian. And watch it. That's where I'll leave it at. Chris, sir, I know we're getting into the witching hour for you. So, how about we hold She-Hulk for a separate episode once
Sounds good.
Has caught up on it.
Sounds good.
Since I may not be here for that, I'm just going to say I really enjoyed it. I'm done.
What?
I did too, Paul.
Yeah. Paul, I did as well. If you do want to give some non-spoiler thoughts, though, please, by all means, before we wrap things up.
Just really, really quickly. I really enjoyed the whole tone of the show. I like, again, that Marvel can show that it can vary off of, different types of formats and different type of genres. It really harkens back to the John Byrne She-Hulk, as far as I'm concerned. My biggest disappointment, Adam, just the slightest of the spoilers, my biggest disappointment is that we don't see Awesome Andy in it. Yeah. I was really, really hoping for that. But the characters that we do see, and I won't mention any of them for exactly the reasons I just said, I get a huge kick out of it. And not only a kick out of the characters, but the way that they were presented, the way the story went, and the way it all wrapped up for the season. I just couldn't speak more highly about it. The episodes were a very good length for what they did. They didn't overstay their welcome, and they didn't make so many of them that they kind of ran out of ideas. It stayed fresh throughout the whole thing. So among the Marvel series that we've been getting on Disney, this is among the best ones.
Paul, great non-spoiler review.
Excellent.
Well done, sir.
Superb. Good stuff, and we'll come back.
I did spoil the absence of Awesome Andy.
That's fine. You can spoil stuff that's really not in the show until the cows come home. It doesn't
exactly. Just so everyone is aware, Blue Hulk doesn't show up, so you don't have to worry about that happening anytime soon. So that's that with that. Not to end things on a somber note, I just want to put out we're thinking of you to Carlos Pacheco.
Yes.
As news did come out a couple of weeks back that he's unfortunately suffering from ALS, and his last, for now, comic work was put up on his social media pages a couple of days ago. So just we hope for the best to you, Carlos. You're one of the greatest artists.
Oh, living master.
Absolute living master, and we may very well have to do a top 5 Carlos Pacheco episode in your honor sometime in the not too distant future. So here's to you, and we're thinking of you. So
yep,
that's all I can really say about it. Hey guys, hopefully the transition wasn't too jarring, but I had to insert this into the episode. We recorded this episode about a week ago. And at the time, we knew that Carlos was sick, but unfortunately, as I record this earlier today, Carlos Pacheco passed away at the age of 60, just a few short weeks before he would have turned 61, actually. And only a little while ago, Carlos had been public about his diagnosis of ALS. ALS is an illness that just completely eats away at you until there's unfortunately not a lot left. And up until this year, Carlos was still putting out regular works for the most part. He had just done Aerosmith not too long ago. You remember Chris Eberly praising it at the time for the continuation of a series that him and Busiek had been working on for years, and now it had come back. And unfortunately, from the looks of it, he was not able to complete the full work on Aerosmith before his unfortunate passing. Once again, 60 years old. It's, he really should have had so many more years. 60 just seems so young these days. And it's been a rough couple of weeks rough couple of years for fans of comic books, as we've lost, tons of luminaries. George Perez not too long ago, and now Carlos. Avengers Forever is one of my favorite comics ever. that 12-issue maxi that him and Busiek worked on is just like the epitome of the perfect Avengers story, and the perfect Kang story for that matter. Kang being as relevant as he is now in the world of comic books, with him approaching his major arc in the MCU. Without stuff like Avengers Forever, I don't think we'd have Kang as he is today. And honestly, there's so many works that Carlos has contributed to over the years. Marvel tweeted out their mourning at the passing of a member of their family, essentially, and working on Excalibur for as long as he did. Remender's Captain America, one of his terrific runs. All the Avengers work that he did outside of Avengers Forever, not to mention X-Men work over the years. And God, look at this splash page here. Look at this poster that he created for Marvel. This was back when he was doing Fantastic Four, if I remember correctly, right around the Heroes Were Born era. And yeah, it's just really sad to see someone who certainly still had the talent and the ability to have that stricken from him so suddenly. Here's one of the last covers that he worked on for Marvel for Damage Control issue 2 that he posted not too long ago. And there was talk of him working on Fantastic Four and a whole bunch of other projects that we'll unfortunately never get to see to completion. And Pacheco was a luminary as well, as sort of bridging the gap of Hispanic artists as well, working as a go-between for introducing new artists to the Western world in ways that we possibly would not have had that happen without him opening the door to do so. Really just a superstar and a genuinely lovely human being from the outpouring of love that has come from people like Mark Waid and Kurt Busiek, who have worked with him. Palmiotti, Rob Liefeld tweeted his condolences earlier today, and I'm just beyond stunned and saddened that we lost him as quickly and unexpectedly as we did. We knew it was coming. I just really hoped that it wouldn't be this soon. But two things. One, he is at peace, because that is a debilitating illness to deal with, ALS. And two, before he passed, there was uncertainty as to whether or not he had already passed or not. And word came out that he was being left on life support to try to see if any of his organs could be used to help others. And that actually made me quite happy that he was able to reach out and touch the lives of hopefully a couple of others before his last moments on Earth. And he's touched so many other people with his work and his passion for the business of comic books over the years and the art world in general. And we will definitely miss Carlos for everything that he brought to this. Carlos Pacheco, dead at the age of 60 here on November 9th. We'll bring you back to the episode here, and we'll have further thoughts on a future comic talk, and we might even try to do a top 5 Carlos Pacheco books like we did for George Perez, because he deserves it. But yeah, sad day in the world of comics, and here's to you, Carlos. Paul, sir, where let the folks on the internet know where they can find you and get more Paul Spataro in their life.
As if anybody really needs that. I have 2 shows that are actively coming out now and one that is in the production stages. The 2 active shows are Back to the Bins, in which we review old comics, and everybody in this particular call except for Shane has been on that. So
make it happen. All 4 of us.
Yeah,
make it happen.
We have to get our schedules aligned and get that on, get that going. So I always look forward to talking to you guys. So we'll do that. My other regular show is called Is It Jaws? And it's a movie review program where we place the movies that we review up against the Jaws scale and rank it as either Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, or Jaws 4. And the ratings aren't necessarily the equivalent of those films. But, I've played with that a little bit, and we have a lot of fun doing that. And the last one we're doing right now is called The Village People, and it's an exploration of the 1960s show The Prisoner. That's going to start coming out in January.
Interesting.
And what we have is there's 4 of us on that show. 2 of them are big fans of the show. And then there's myself and one other host who like so many other things, it's been sitting in my queue for years and I've never watched it. So episode by episode, we watch it and we're newcomers to it, and we're really enjoying the heck out of that.
That's a great concept, Paul.
Oh my God.
You know, I just, a few years ago, I just watched the first episode of The Prisoner. And I was like, what is going on? Like, it was like when you see like the inflatable like balls and stuff, it was like, I gotta watch the rest of it. It was like,
that's what they call that, Rover.
Yeah, it's like deep 1960s stuff. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
The version of The Prisoner that I've seen is actually the 2009 miniseries.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, that's with Jim Caviezel.
Yep, Jim Caviezel and Ian McKellen was in it. Lenny James and a Ruth Wilson and a bunch of other names that people may recognize. And it was a 2009 miniseries that aired on the BBC and AMC here in America, and it was pretty good. It was only 6 episodes long, so they truncated the story significantly. But I enjoyed what I saw of it.
A listener generously sent me a bunch of DVDs a few years ago, which included those. So once we finish with the proper series, I'm planning on visiting that to see what I think in comparison.
Well, how many episodes was the original Prisoner? I forgot.
I believe it's 17.
The 17. Okay.
If my memory is correct. Yeah.
Oh,
and there's an episode of Secret Agent Man in the U.S., Danger Man in England. That kind of is a precursor to it. So we started with an episode 0 where we went over that episode first before we actually get to The Prisoner.
Nice. Of course, now I must ask you, Paul, where does Black Adam fall on the Jaws scale?
I would probably give it a relatively high Jaws 3.
Okay. All right.
And just to give you a really quick, the scale
Jaws
is
3 and
if you
3D.
rank it Jaws... If you give it a Jaws rating, you're saying it's a great movie, practically flawless. If you give it a Jaws 2, you're saying really good, really enjoyed it, worthy of multiple viewings. Mm-hmm. Jaws 3 it was all right. I watched it. You know, it didn't suck. And Jaws 4 it did suck. So I would say like a relatively high Jaws 3.
What I find fascinating about Jaws, I'm assuming Michael Caine was paying for a summer home or something when he appeared in that movie. But...
Definitely. Michael Caine has even said in a few interviews, there's some movies that I did for the money.
It's that always is reminiscent to me of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where John Huston played the lawgiver.
Yes.
And apparently somebody said to him, you know, a man of your stature, what are you doing in this movie? And he said, you know, my friend, we do not turn down a paycheck.
Yes. Yes, very, very, very true. Yep, very, very true. Doesn't matter how respected an actor you are. Sometimes you just got to pay the water bill. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Paul. This was a lot of fun, and we will definitely talk to you soon, my friend.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You bet.
Our pleasure. And thank you once again, the listeners at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for donating to the show throughout the years. We very much appreciate it. And if you want to go towards producing this and other shows, patreon.com/comic timing for my personal Patreon. And Shane, we now hand it over to Shane for the Shane Spot featuring Shane. The floor is yours. We're going to need a microphone in order to do it.
We've been
How about now?
Yes,
oh, there he is.
Stupid button.
Take two. All this time, we just thought you were just being very quiet and thoughtful. I realized.
So you probably haven't heard the last half hour stuff I said.
No. Just
20 minutes.
and meanwhile, the Shane Spot will be played by Shane and performed by Shane. Shane, the floor is yours.
Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com. To send us an email, the address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/comicgeekspeak. Send in your Muddle the Merds because apparently we're getting low and we don't want to run out. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thanks to everyone who contributes to the episodes. Thanks for coming on the show, Paul. It was great to meet you and talk to you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
Damn thing. There we go. All right.
See, I'm not the only one that's screwed
up.
Yeah.
Here we go. Professionalism right out the window. Dwayne the Black Adam Johnson.